everybody, it's Kathy Champion and you're back in my craft room, and we're going to do some techniques today. I think it's always nice when we learn some different techniques in our stamping, blending, embossing, and we're going to kind of combine all of that today in this particular technique. Now, the topic of this today is going to be layered stamps. I have heard so many crafters say they love the look of a layered stamp, but they struggle with it. Well, I'm going to show you a couple of tips that can help you not struggle anymore. And the first thing, now this one is a 3-part layered stamp. So here is part 1, that would be your first. And normally you start with your lightest color first. So this would be your first one. So what I suggest doing is lay your stamp out, and then you want to stack your next stamp over top of it. And it's very easy to do if you line up your bottom and make sure that everything is lining up around it. Just like that. Let me see if I can zoom you in. I just stamped this prior to turning my camera on, and this technique works for me every time. And I stamped the first one in the Flirty Flamingo, and then I stamped the second stamp in the Poppy Parade, and then the last one was Cherry Cobbler. And what the last one did was put a beautiful outline, but I'm going to show you how you can use some embossing ink and outline it in gold or silver. You could do a white, whatever color that you wanted to outline that with, you can do that using your ink and embossing powder. Okay, that's our second one, so we got those lined up. Now what I suggest doing is stack them. Stack them one on top of the other, just like I've got here. And then when you get ready to do your last one, let's make sure I've got that. See, it's going right in place right there. Everything's lining up. So when you pick these up, everything is lined up all the way around perfectly. So I'm going to leave these lay here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to peel off the top one, and I'm going to lay these right here, and we're going to stamp that out again right here. So we know that we want this to be our bottom. So when you pick this up on your stamp block, what I like to do is, the Stampin' Up! Stamp blocks have the letter on one side and they have Stampin' Up! On the other. Decide what you want to be the front. I usually do the letter, which is your size of your block, and I make that my front. So I always put that facing me, and I pick my stamp up, and then I go to my lightest ink pad. Now with these solid images like this, you're going to want to press it down with your hand. It doesn't hurt to handle this part of your stamp. You don't want to do this to the top because you will cause your stamp not to be sticky and that sort of thing. Looking again for my letter, and now I'm going to open up my Flirty Flamingo, and this is that beautiful pink, and I am going to stamp this stamp, getting a good coverage of that pink ink. Now you're going to have some white spots on this. It's the nature of the layered stamp. But now, knowing that my letter is right here, I'm going to put this down just like that. I'm going to use the heel of my hand and put some pressure on it. Let that ink transfer. Let's go ahead, while it's transferring, we'll close this ink pad up and lay it over here. And now we're going to lift this. Now see, we do have some white and we have some lighter pink. That's okay. That is what you're looking for. So I'm just going to scrub my stamp off a little bit right there. And I'm going to peel this one off, and I'm going to lay that up over here to be cleaned a little bit later. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my stamps back over, and I'm going to go to the next one, which is this one right here. Now the best thing to do to get this lined up is lay it right on top of where you stamped. And you can see that you are getting all of your image. And it won't be perfect because these stamps aren't made to be perfect. Have you ever seen a perfect flower? There's always something, a little imperfection here or there. That's the nature of doing a flower. Okay, so I'm going to pick this up and I'm going to go to my Poppy Parade because that's the next color in my, I started light, medium, and dark. So I am looking for my little letter again, and there it is. That just keeps me knowing that which way my stamp goes, so when I put my ink on it, I don't have to sit here and struggle turning it and trying to figure out which way does it go. I know that this is going to go just like this. So I am going to stamp that down just like that. Again, nice pressure with the heel of my hand. And then lift it. And see how pretty that is? And yes, we do have some lighter here because it's going to do that. Like I said, it's the nature of the stamps to show a little bit of lightness. This is what gives the integrity of your rose. And I love it. I love the fact that these stamps stamp like that, and I think they're so pretty. But I'm going to also show you, now I'm going to lay this one right here. And we're going to pick that up. Let's close up our Poppy Parade. And let's get our Cherry Cobbler. And this is going to be a very dark red. And I'm going to turn it just a little bit. Actually, I'm not. I'm going to turn it back around because I want to keep it in the same orientation that we've been stamping. Now this is going to be your outline stamp. So I'm going to get over this as best I can and put it down to the paper, and again, nice even pressure. And there you go. There is two beautiful layered roses. And this is from the To a Wild Rose stamp set. It also comes with coordinating dies. But I'm going to show you a little different technique of using the very same stamp set. So let me wipe these stamps off, and then we're going to pull out another piece of paper. And I'm going to show you a technique. If you are just not into wanting to line everything up like this, I got an easy, simple technique, and I learned this from another Stampin' Up demonstrator, TX Stampin' Sharon, I believe. I saw her video on doing this, and I thought it was ingenious, but I wanted to come and show you how you can line your stamps up if you want to stamp them like they were meant to be, or we're going to do this technique that I think is so neat. And it is going to entail some color blending, which is, right up my alley. So we're going to put down about 3 gobs of ink, if you want to call gobs. And in doing that, we are going to actually do away with the first stamp. So I'm just going to wipe this stamp off, and I'm going to put it back onto the packaging. And this one needs to go back on here about like that. And we're going to keep out the other 2 because we're going to be using those. And I'm going to put this one back on a stamp block. And let's see. I want to get these lined up because I want them to be, oops, let's see, like, and I'm lining it up over top of this one. So then this should line up right here. Just like that. So I'm just going to leave that one on the top and the other one on the bottom. I'm going to put this Cherry Cobbler away because we are not going to be using that. And I will show you why. We are going to be concentrating on the Flirty Flamingo and the Poppy Parade. We're going to come in and just lay some color down in this Flirty Flamingo. And we're going to do that using an ink blending tool. And I'm going to grab this one because y'all know I love my makeup brushes for ink blending. So I'm just going to tap into this Flirty Flamingo, and I am going to come directly to the paper, and I'm just going to put a gob of ink. It doesn't matter if it's dark in one place. In fact, you want it like that. We're not going to blend off to the side or anything like that. We're just going to come in, put your brush down, and swirl it. Another one right here, and swirl it around. Isn't that fun? No rhyme, no reason, just fun. Alright, so we got that. Now we're going to need to do some leaves. So in order to do leaves, we're going to need some green. So I'm going to start out with the Granny Apple green. I love this green because it's a beautiful spring green. And I'm going to clean my brush because I do not want to cross-contaminate. I'm going to put a little squeaky clean on here so that I can make sure I get my brush, get all of that flirty flamingo out of there. And remember what I told y'all about using a little piece of scrap paper, something that you can rub your brush on so that you know that it's clean. So I'm just going to come over in my little scrap pile and I'm going to pull out just a little strip that really doesn't matter, and I'm going to use that just to clean my brush on. This is just making sure that if there, and there was, see that pink, it's very pale, but I can see it. Okay, so now we're going to come in and we're going to do the same thing with the green. The green I'm going to do a little bit different. I am going to come off the side and I'm going to swirl it in, just like that. And I'm going to do some right here. And I'm going to do a little bit right here in the middle. And come around on that side. And then even here. Okay, and you're going to get ink all over you when you do this, so just be prepared. It's just the nature of the game. You know, if you're not making a mess, you're not having fun. That's what I always say. So, let's do this. I'm going to scrub this really good over here. We're pretty much done with our brush, so I'm going to clean that out a little bit later, but I'm going to go ahead and clean up my work surface right here so I don't get ink somewhere that I don't want it. So I'm going to close this one up now, and we are going to proceed to do our stamping. Now remember, we have these two stamps on our block, and I pretty much have them in the position where I want them to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp the detailed one, this layer, the layer that's not the outline, but this layer here, and we're going to stamp that in the Poppy Parade. I think I'm going to take this one off just so I can see exactly what I'm doing, because it's going to be a little bit hard to get that on there like I want it, and I think I want it like that. Again, I'm going to put it on my block like this. And this is like a no thought process. You're just going to grab your ink and you're going to put some roses down on your paper. So I'll load this up in the Poppy Parade, and I'm going to come in where those little pink gobs are, and I am going to stamp right on top of them. Just like that. And I'm going to do that again, right down here. And you can come off the paper. If you want to, let it come off of the paper a little bit. That gives it even more character. And then we're going to go in one more time. And we're going to put this one right up here in this corner. Okay. Now I'm going to scrub my stamp just for a minute. I even got ink on my block. And this ink is pigmented, so it does stain your stamps. So even though these are clean stamps, and I'm going to show you, I'm going to spray some squeaky clean right on it and rub it. Now see, that stamp is clean, but it is stained. I'm going to clean that ink up off of my work surface so I don't make a mess. So now I'm going to take this stamp and pull it off. I'm going to lay it over here so we can put it back in the packaging. Now we're going to do this one, but we're going to do this one a little bit different, and this is where our magic comes in. I need to sit one day and just work my ink pads until I get them all loose and flowy, I think would be the word. Alright, I'm going to air dry this a little bit because it does need to be dry. We're going to do some embossing. So let me go and grab, while we're waiting for this to dry, I'm going to go and grab my embossing tools, and then we'll come right back and we will proceed to get this embossed. I'll be right back. Alright, we're back, and I did forget one thing. I forgot my leaves. So, I am so sorry, but I totally forgot about my leaves. Now, for the leaves, I'm going to use the more detailed stamp, and we are going to stamp the leaves like here, and maybe off of the page here, and a little bit up in there. And I'm not too sure I won't go. Nah, we're just going to do those. You could do two sets if you wanted to, but I'm just going to do the one for the sake of the time in the video. But you could always come back and do more. The other thing that I wanted to put in that I think will be gorgeous, oops, not here. This will be so pretty to make this gold. And that's what we're going to emboss in. We're going to emboss these roses in gold. And how pretty is it going to be to stamp that center in gold. Now what I'm going to do is to make this easy on myself, I'm going to grab my big stamp block. Now if you don't have these stamp blocks, they are available in the catalog. You can buy the entire set, and I think it's a discount if you get them all. I love these blocks. They're heavy. They have a nice grip around the edges for you to hold on to. The stamp block basically does the work because it is heavy, and they come in such a variety of sizes. And the good thing with this big one, you can lay stamps out on here. I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and do this so our leaves will look a little bit different. Let's go ahead and do this one, and let's do this one like right there. I think that'll be cute, and that way we can do all of this in one shot. Now I'm going to go ahead and pick up these stamps. You know what? I do want to stamp this down, so I'm regrouping, y'all. Y'all know I always do this. I am going to do this first. I'm going to use some green ink, and I want to go darker than the Granny Apple. So I'm going to grab the Garden Green, because this is going to give us a nice depth of green in here. And I am going to grab a smaller stamp block. We're going to hold this one. We're going to do this in just a moment. But I am going to grab this, and I am going to put this leaf down. What did I do with my other leaf? Oh, right here. Yeah, this is going to come off like this. So we're going to put this one like right here. So I'm going to go in with this darker ink. And we're going to stamp that there. And we're going to stamp this one. We're going to let a couple of these come off the page. Like that. Y'all know that makes such a pretty emphasis on a card if it comes off of the page a little bit. And I think we're going to do just the top of these, maybe right here. That looks pretty. I like that. Maybe one more right over on this side. Okay, let me wipe my mess up because I'm going to get my hands in this ink and make a mess here in a minute. So I'm just going to wipe this up and I'm going to clean that stamp just a little bit. Like I said, we'll come back a little bit later and I'll clean up everything, but for the sake of the video, I'm just trying to move, you know, fairly quickly. So now what we want to do is I'm going to actually use my heat tool, because I want to make sure this ink is good and dry before I put down my powder tool or my embossing. Oops. Before we do that, we might want to close this ink up. Don't want to dry your inks out. Okay. Alright, back to this, and I've already preheated it, so it should be good. I'm going to do the back as well, just to try to keep it from warping. And a great technique, if you have warping, you can lay a heavy block like this on it. That's another great thing with these blocks. They serve more than just holding a stamp. And I love them for that reason. So now I'm just going to let that sit there for a minute, and I'm going to grab my detailed leaf. We're going to, look at this, y'all. I got ink everywhere. Like I said, if you don't get it all over you, you are not having fun. But see, we're going to go in, as once we can put our embossing powder down, and we should be good now. Yeah, everything feels good and dry. That's a good thing too about these dye inks. They do, they dry very quickly. So I have some British Monroe gold. It's called Gilded. And I have this in my store if you're interested in grabbing some. Beautiful, beautiful. I have my Versamark, this is a watermark ink pad. So what it does, it puts down a sticky ink that your embossing powder will stick to. Now you always want to use your little embossing buddy before you do this. And this is a powder tool. It basically puts down an anti-static powder over top of your surface. So it keeps the embossing powder from sticking anywhere except where you put the Versamark ink. And you want to be generous with that. Don't skimp on it. Put down a good amount. You might even want to rub it. Just like that. Now, we're going to grab our outline rose. Oops. Our outline rose. And I think I just made a big boo-boo, but we'll see. I got embossing powder on the back of that rose, and that's never ever a good thing. So I am going to try to pick this up in the same fashion that it is supposed to go. It should be about like that. Yeah, see, that's not going to stick. Hang on just a minute. I got embossing powder on the back of this. I just need to get a wet wipe, and I don't have any in here in my craft room, so let me go and grab one and I'll be right back. Okay, here's that hindsight. I had my simple chamois that I could have used to wipe that stamp off. Didn't even think about it, but let me show you. This will wipe off that residue and make your stamp come back. And remember, this is nothing but water, so it's not going to leave lint or anything else. Probably better than a wet wipe. So rethink and regroup. I am going to put this back, and I keep my chamois in one of the, you can buy these empty cases, and to keep this in it is the best thing. I love doing that because it works so well. So let's see if we got the stamp back in the condition that it needs to be in, so we can pick it up. Voila! Now I'm going to bring my Versamark ink to my stamp because I want to make sure that I get enough of this on here so that I get a really good impression. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm putting down this rose, and I'm sorry about the interruption. It's, you know, it does happen. No biggie. I am just putting this down where I think it needs to go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come back. I'm going to grab my coffee filter, move my ink over here. I like to use a coffee filter. This works good for me, and it gives me a nice place to put my ink back, my embossing powder back into my jar. And so I'm just going to tap that off. I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to do this side. And I'm going to tap it. And now I'm going to put this back in my jar. And I'm going to come back with this little middle that we had looked at. And I'm going to grab I was going to do it all with the big one, but I decided not to. I'm going to come back in and now, and I'm going to grab this with my Versamark ink. And I'm going right in that center. And I'm just putting that watermark right down in the center of that flower. Just like that. And wipe that off. Probably wouldn't hurt to scrub that. And now we're going to do our leaves. So I am going to, it looks like I got a little bit of gold on my ink pad, so I just took that off. I might need to re-ink this. So now I'm going to come in and I am going to line up my leaves right over top of the leaf that's there. Does not have to be perfect. Remember, this is not going to look perfect. It's going to look a little bit distressed, and that is actually the look I'm going for. So we're going to put this down. But I'll tell you what this is going to do. This is going to make a very elegant card front when we're done. So let's go ahead and get this one, and this one's the one that's going to be off the page. Just like that. And we got a couple of little ones that we had kind of going off the page here and there. There. And here. And I believe right here. And all we want to do is just kind of line that up just like that. Now I'm going to close up my ink pad. I'm going to grab my coffee filter and I'm going to put it back on here, and we're going to just emboss again. Do one side and then the other, just making sure we get that everything covered. And this is what I like about using the coffee filter. I can pour out as much of that as I want, and I know that I'm not going to lose it because it's going right back into my container. And if you do lose a little bit, like I did here, take your, if your mat allows you to do this, slide your coffee filter under it, grab yourself a little paintbrush or a little whatever you have, and just sweep that back onto your coffee filter. You know, embossing powder is expensive, and we do not want to waste it, so I never waste a crumb of it if I can help it. So put this back in here just like this, and I'm going to go ahead and cap that, and I am going to grab a set of tweezers. because I do not want to burn myself with the heat embossing. So I'm going to grab that right there, and I'm going to grab my heat tool, and I'm going to turn this on, so it's going to be loud, so bear with me. I am allowing it to heat a little bit first, and then I'm going to take it to the card and wait till you see the magic. Once I see that I've gotten everything melted, all of that beautiful, beautiful gold is shining bright, I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to do the back side. And I'm also going to show you a trick for flattening your cardstock out. So let me go and grab my equipment and I'll be right back. Okay everybody, we're back, and as you can see, I have my laminator set up here on my work surface, and I just wanted to show you that if you have a warped card, whether it be from heat embossing, whether it be from doing watercoloring, even regular water-based inks, you don't have to worry about that with alcohol inks. But all you have to do is take a regular piece of copy paper, not cardstock, just a copy paper. Put your piece inside of it, and I'm heating this up on the 3 mil because it doesn't need to be super hot, but it does need to be warm. And all we're going to do is pass this through. Sometimes you might have to do it twice depending on, and I don't think I've gotten this hot yet, but I'm going to go ahead and start passing it through. And it will literally iron out your piece of cardstock. So anytime that you're doing heat embossing and you get your piece is warped, curling up, and you need it to be straightened, just think of this as an iron and run it through. Look how nice and flat that is. That was with one pass. Now it lays down completely flat, and it took all of just a very few seconds to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and fold this back up, and we'll turn it off. I didn't even get it hot all the way. I didn't even have to wait for it to complete the heating process. Now, you might ask, you know, our laminators, what type of investment is that? This one right here, I got at Walmart, and I think I paid 17 bucks for it. You can find them cheaper than that. A laminator is not that expensive, and you'll be surprised. I've got some embossing powder that's coming in that we're going to try doing some foiling on by stamping our stamp sets and just using a laminator. So if you have a laminator, or if you've been thinking about getting one, now would be a good time. But now we have this right here is ready to go on a card base. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab, I'm thinking that pink, that light pink would really make this piece pop. Let me look over here and see if I can find a light pink piece of cardstock. And you know what? I might have one right here. Let's see. I've got some dark pink. Let's see if I got a light one. And you know, we might even go with something totally different just to kind of offset it. Let's look and see how this would look. No, too much green. The teal I don't think is going to work at all. I think that's going to be kind of a clash. Yeah, I don't like that. So these were just some card bases that I already had pre-cut. Let's try the darker pink just to see what it looks like. I'm really thinking that lighter shade of pink will be the color that I'm going to want to go for. But, yeah, that's too bold. Alright, let me grab a piece of the lighter pink. And I think this is exactly what we're going to want. And yes, that is exactly what I want. Now, I'll tell you what would really set this off is to take a piece of gold and just outline it with some gold cards, do a map, and we may do that. Let's go ahead and cut this down. I think we're going to have to cut this down too, because this is a 5.5 by 4 1/4, and we need this to be 4 by 5 1/4. You know, I'm trying to think ahead of myself, and when I do that, I usually can't talk. Does that ever happen to you? I'm sure it does. Alright, we're going to take a 1/4 inch, or maybe just 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to take 1/8 of an inch off this way, and then I'm going to take 1/8 of an inch off of the bottom. This will, instead of taking the 1/4 inch off, you know, all the way, just do 1/8. And this trimmer is so easy to read. I have no problems cutting off 1/8 of an inch. And now on this side, we're going to do it at 1/8. And the reason I'm doing that, I just want to take the wee smallest amount off, but I still want to get it down to that size that I need it to be. So there is our 1/8. And now this should measure 5 1/4, yep, by 4. And it's right on point. So that worked out absolutely perfect just by sliding off those little tiny slivers that we took off of that. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut this into a 5 1/2. And we're going to score it at 4 1/4. Let's put our cut blade up and grab our score blade. And let's roll that down just like that. And I am going to use my bone folder because I want to get a nice sharp crease on this. So I'm going to hold it like that and crease it down. And now this piece can fit right on here, and I love that. I love the softness of that pink. I think it really accents. So what we need to do now is find out what we're going to do with our sentiment. And okay, everybody, I think we're ready now. I got this piece redone. I got my bow tied, and I am going to put this down right about here, just like that. And now I put just a tiny bit of glue across the middle of that, just like that. And I am going to set that down so that the glue adheres right across that line. These look like gold. Yeah, I think those will work. And so all I'm going to do is I'm going to take out just a few of these, and I'm just going to lay them on my desk like this. And I am going to grab my little jewel picker, or my little piece that allow me to pick these up, and I'm going to take and put a dot of glue, and then I'm going to pick up one of these and just drop it in it, and maybe another one, maybe right there. Now don't be alarmed, because this glue will dry clear. So even though it's looking like it's puddled behind there, this will dry completely clear once you're done with it. And you know, sometimes just adding a few little gems onto a piece can make all the difference in the world. So I think I'm going to put one right here. And pick up this one and let's put one right there. And I think I need a couple more. And I'm going to put one right down here on this corner. And maybe one right here. Just like that. Now I'm just going to take my finger and press these down just to make sure they're adhering. And I'm going to put my pen back in my glue because we don't want this to go bad on us. And now I'm going to look back at this bow and see if I need the bow. I still love the bow. I really love that bow on there. And I'm thinking that I'm going to put that bow, I don't know, I think it's an overkill. Even though I want to put the bow on it, I don't think I am. So we're going to call this a done deal. And, oh, no we're not. We're going to put a piece of cardstock inside so we can stamp it. So we're going to cut this piece down to 4 by 5 1/4. And we're going to find us a pretty little sentiment to put inside. Just like a word of encouragement. I think that would be, oops, we got something on that cardstock. What is that? It looks like it might have been adhesive or ink. That's okay. We're gonna cut this down to 5 1/4, so we'll cut that right off. And we're gonna cut it to 4. Just like that. And now we're going to decide the sentiment that we want to put. How about kindness is always in style, or be as bold as your lipstick? I like be as bold as your lipstick, and I think we're going to do that in a pretty red. And I think I'm going to do that Poppy Parade, since that's what color we used mostly in here. This darker red in here was Poppy Poppy Parade. So let me grab my Poppy Parade. And we're going to get another stamp block. And let me line it up down here. Just like that. And I'm going to stamp it right here. Very pretty. So I am going to spray my stamp and wipe it off. Again, this is dye ink, so anytime you're using dye ink, You're going to have some staining on your stamps. It's just par for the course. But the dye ink is always so bold and so beautiful that I love it. So I don't mind a stained stamp. As crafters always say, a stained stamp is a love stamp. It means we've used it. So the other little thing that's on here that would be cute would be this tube of lipstick. And we might, well, I got ink on it. I got red ink on it off of my finger. So let me use this, and we're going to put that right there. I think we're going to need a little bit bigger stamp for that tube of lipstick. And I think I got the ink on the top of it, which is not good. Alright, I am regrouping now. Okay, I'm going to put this tube of lipstick right here. Just like that. And I'm going to stamp it in black. That's good. And now we're going to go ahead and see if we can color this tube of lipstick. And I am thinking that I want my tube to be sort of gray. So I want a darker gray, and I'm gonna look bold, and I'm gonna try the alcohol markers, even though I did use VersaFine. So I'm just gonna go up like this. And I'm going to come down here. I'm going to go back with a darker gray and kind of highlight. And we're going to do that lipstick a beautiful red, because we do need to be as bold as our lipstick. Right, this is a darker shade of gray, and I'm going to just come in like that. I'm just going to highlight this tube just a little bit. And then I think what's going to really make this pop is when we come in with this red, and we're going to do this lipstick nice and bold. Now I'm going to do the stick part of it here in a little bit lighter shading. I put a little dot of that right there, and then I'm going to go in with this medium, really darker red. And then I'm going to just kind of blend that out with that first red that we used. Just like that. And I think that's all that tube of lipstick needs. And now we can go ahead and adhere this into our card. My puppy dog just opened the door. He decided he wanted to find where Mama was. Trying to decide if I think I'm just going to use glue for this. So I'm just going to put some glue along here. And we are going to put this down just like that. And now that card is ready, and how beautiful would that be to give to any lady in your life? I think it's beautiful. You could make this card and put a happy birthday here and a birthday greeting inside. You could have done a floral inside. I mean, the sky's the limit. So if you have any layering stamps that you've been struggling with, give my techniques, both this one and this one, a try, and let me know how they turn out for you. I would hope that you could be successful in stamping your layered stamps, because they can bring so much to your projects. This is a very easy way to do it, by just dabbing ink on the card and then stamping over it. This is a much more detailed. These would be great to use your dies and cut them out and put them on a card. I would even go back and maybe put the gold in the middle and heat set it with some embossing powder. That would be gorgeous. So many possibilities. So I hope that you'll give this card a try. And just so you'll know, the To a Wild Rose is not retiring. That stamp set is coming back, so you don't have to rush to order it. But if you want to make this card, like for Mother's Day, this would make a gorgeous Mother's Day card. What mother wouldn't love to get this card with this beautiful, beautiful foil? I know I would. So anyway, if you make this card, go over to our Facebook group and join up with us, and leave your images over there so we can see what you're doing. And again, I just want to thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for supporting my channel, my store, my Stampin' Up! Business. Y'all are so good to me in so many ways, and I'm so thankful for you every day. And as I always say in closing, let everything that you do and say bring glory to your Father in heaven, for He's so worthy. I love you all, and until we craft again, bye-bye. Okay, I did decide to go ahead and add the bow to this, so I went ahead and glued my bow on, and I just used a little glue dot. The card just seemed like it needed that little something else, and I did like the way the bow turned out, and I put it right here beside this other gold piece, and I think it coordinated real well. And with the gold embossing on it, I think this card turned out really pretty. And then of course we have the inside, be as bold as your lipstick. And this would be a nice little pick-me-up card for anybody. And again, like I said, a Mother's Day card with a Happy Mother's Day right here, and some sentimental sentiment inside, or even write your own little message and tell your mom exactly how much she means to you. If you're fortunate enough to still have your mom with you, I just say thank God every day for her. And if you have lost your mom, just think about her with fond memories of everything that she meant to you. So y'all take care. And I know I had already closed out this video, but after I added the bow, I had to come back and show you that and take a final picture. So God bless you so much. I love you all, and we will talk soon. Bye-bye.